Are Kyrie and Harden proving that the Nets are already the team to beat in the East?
Jenna, I love the fact that this is the way you start the question, asking if Kyrie and Harden are proving this, because there's also a 7-footer on the bench who's pretty good at both ends of the floor, and Kevin Durant, who actually isn't even played throughout the course of much of this stretch. Thinking about the fact that he's missed 8 of the last 9 games. With all respect to Philadelphia, and especially Joel Embiid, who's been playing like an absolute beast. Of course, Milwaukee not rolling through the regular season like we're accustomed to seeing, though making some tweaks. Absolutely. I think that the Nets are the team to beat in the East, and I think they're just scratching the surface of what they're going to be. Not only have they had some issues with injuries and just figuring out their lineups, rotations in terms of their 3 stars actually being on the floor together, but the complementary pieces, the role players, whether it's Joe Harris, figuring out exactly how you're going to look at these lineups with Bruce Brown now coming on, what Jeff Green has been able to do. A lot of the questions that we were starting to wonder about the defensive end, that's slowly improving. So I think for a multitude of reasons, starting with the stars, they are going to continue to improve. And this is just a small piece of what they're going to look like as it goes on. James Harden is been absolutely exceptional. He's filthy when he has the ball in his hands because he is a basketball savant. And the integration that he's made with this team has been nothing short of incredible, just in how he's figured out exactly what the team needs. And Brandon, you nailed it. Think about the fact that he has his lowest usage rate since back when he was with the Thunder in 2011, 2012. Wow. Yet he is at career highs for whether it's offensive rating or field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, rebounds, assists. He is doing everything for this team. He has been excellent in orchestrating what the offense is generating. The fact that there are tops in the league, so much of it is coming back to just his understanding of how to spoon feed players when he needs it, make timely baskets. And I think for Harden, so much credit should go to the fact that he's entirely changed the way in which he was playing in Houston, just with how he is managing this offense and managing the ball.
Yeah, listen, I think Sarah, as always, and it's wonderful to have you back on the show. We had a pandemic lapse of not having enough Sarah Kustok, so it's great to have you back. I think Sarah makes great points. I think Brandon, all years made great points. I'm starting to wonder why we even play the season. I mean, I just looked, and I'm going to double check, because the Nets have won 7 in a row. And the Lakers, my pick to win the title, they've lost 4 in a row. So I just imagine that the gap in the standings is massive. Oh, wait, the Lakers still have a better record. That's so odd. And the 7 wins in a row. Oh, the Nets are still not even first in their own conference. That's odd. It's almost like prior to these last 2 weeks, they were a mediocre team. So let's talk about why they were a mediocre team prior to these last 2 weeks. Oh, that's right. The worst defense in the NBA post the Harden trade. So let's talk about the defensive end that Brandon doesn't want us to talk about. And I'm also going to throw it back to Sarah before Wilds jumps in. Sarah, here's my question. I don't think the Nets are going to have any trouble getting out of round 1. In round 2, they're going to play either Milwaukee or Philly. That's what, in theory, that might not be the case, but right now that's how it would be. Who on this team is going to guard either of those teams' stars? Who is going to guard Giannis? And more importantly, maybe who is going to guard Joel Embiid? Because that is the question here. Or is the answer, it doesn't matter because they can beat you 125-120? And that's a legitimate answer. Do you think their plan is we're going to beat you 125-120, or their plan is we're going to have an answer for one of those guys to slow them down in a series?
Excellent question, because I think there's a lot of season to play. I think it's a little bit of both, considering the fact that I don't think this is the roster as it sits that you may be looking at by the time you get to the playoffs. Secondly, the Nets are best when they're playing small. So they are best when you've got Kevin Durant and Jeff Green essentially at this point in the front court. So you bring up the concept of guarding those bigs. I think in many ways the Nets will try and force the hand of the opponent to play to us and play to our size. And we've seen the Nets defensively. I mean, they're trying different things. They're switching 1 through 4, 1 through 5. And I think a lot of it is going to be the attempt to just show different looks, how they can scramble on that end of the floor. And real quickly, I think the difference in their defense lately They had been turning the ball over at incredible rates. They had been giving up a ton of second chance points. You look at the box score at the end of a game, and the teams were getting 20 extra shots, 22 extra shots after game. I think there's a lot on the offensive end if they clean up that could help put less pressure on their defense when you start getting later in the season, when those possession matter, as we know in the postseason.
Sarah, I have two questions. One, how worried do you think we should be about Kevin Durant's hamstring? I mean, I like that they have a lot of depth on the squad, so he's going to miss tonight's game. If you guys keep winning. And two, you hinted at it that there might be some roster changes. Is there anything that you have heard that the Nets are targeting or might look to make changes on?
Yeah, the Nets are looking at everything in terms of being flexible. And I think when it comes to whether it's trades or the buyout market, that's something when you think about fortifying the front court. So that's one aspect, no names that I know of at this point. However, with Kevin Durant, I think anytime you have a player of his caliber, there is some level of concern. But by all accounts from the Nets and everything they said, they're just being overly cautious. They anticipate he'll be back again before the All-Star break. I think with him, it is a long view and a big picture view, similar to a lot of what we're seeing with the Lakers and Anthony Davis. But the difference is it's not just about having two stars and you're missing one of them. It's the insurance of you got Irving and Harden to go along with that. And the expectation is that once he gets back, he'll be more than healthy.
That's absolutely right. And that is the biggest benefit to the three-star system, if you will. And you saw it in Miami. There were series where Bosh was hurt or was out. They were able to overcome it because they had LeBron and Wade. You saw it in Golden State. Once they added KD, that Steph could miss some time or KD could miss some time. They didn't actually lose a series together until you had multiple of your stars, where it was KD and Clay end up going out, that you can't overcome it. So that's obviously not only a massive benefit, but they're the only team in the league with those three stars. We're no longer in a three-star league. We're in a two-star league, except for the Nets, who have those three stars. The concern would be, do they have a redundant skill set to a degree, and do they all lack, except for KD, on the defensive end? But I want to go to Brandon for a moment, because one thing Brandon and I agree on that I do think should be I do emphasized is James Harden. And it is frustrating to me because I felt like for Harden's tenure in Houston, he was underappreciated. And then I really didn't like how he left Houston. So I think now people think, because of the way I responded how he left Houston, think I'm anti-Harden. What you are seeing with James Harden and the folks who are like, oh, he's passing now, he always was a great passer. He just was first, second, and third option was shooting. I do think, Brandon, the biggest plus that has come of the Harden trade is that Kyrie has accepted it as willingly as he has and has let Harden be the true point guard, because Harden flatly is a far better point guard than Kyrie Irving. Kyrie's just a pure scorer, and I think that has been the key to their success while Durant's been missing games.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.